Jim Jordan urges Congress to use power of the purse against FBI. This is a Washington Examiner story. To hold the FBI accountable following the release of the Durham report, Jordan argues that appropriations can be leveraged to pressure the FBI into reform, stating we got to limit how they spend the money, maybe even limit them. Jordan has been vocal about FBI misconduct, including alleged targeting of anti-abortion groups and conservative activists. He calls for further investigations and discussions with individuals mentioned in the Durham report, stating, are there people that were highlighted in the Durham investigation and the Durham report that we need to talk to on the Judiciary Committee? We're going to give that a good hard look. Some Republicans have even suggested defending or abolishing the FBI. Yesterday, I think a few FBI whistleblowers came out. The mainstream media didn't give it a second of airtime at all. They did not talk about it. So tell us what's going on. Why is mainstream media not talking about it? With everything that's being shared, isn't this enough credibility for them to want to look at this? And if not, why are they not?
Because the FBI works for them. The FBI works for the left, works for the Democrats, and works for the media, which is part of the left. It's very simple. So when the Durham report is 307 pages, it's long. But most Americans are never going to read it. So I tweeted this out at the weekend, and I've got a lot of followers, but I very rarely get 366,000 views on a tweet in a couple of days. And here it is. It's just the Cliff Notes. Haven't read the Durham report? Okay, here are the Cliff Notes. The FBI and CIA knew Hillary was about to frame candidate Trump. Repeat. The FBI and the CIA knew Hillary was about to frame Trump. Number 2, Comey, head of CIA, head of FBI, and Brennan, head of CIA, briefed Obama and Biden on her plot on the summer of 2016. Before the election, Biden, as vice president, and Obama were briefed by the CIA and the FBI that Hillary's going to do this smear job. She's going to lie about Russian collusion. We've got the deets. Biggest conclusion, there was never any evidence of Russian collusion. None. Zero. Zip. Mueller investigation. Impeachment 1, impeachment 2, no evidence of Russia collusion. Nevertheless, the U.S. government illegally spied on the Trump campaign and us in the Trump White House. FISA warrants, Flynn, Carter Page, Manafort, Papadopoulos, on and on and on. And lastly, my conclusion, this isn't the Cliff Notes, the deep state is real, but Durham didn't have the balls to arrest any of its leaders or their masters, Hillary, Obama, or Biden. 40 years ago, the FBI was the enemy of the left, right? The greatest patriotism is dissent. We hate the man. We hate the G-man. Today, and this is tough for me to even say, because before I joined the White House, my wife and I had the only external contract to provide training on ISIS and Al-Qaeda to the FBI. I was doing 20,000 miles a month, going from field office to RA to the headquarters to Quantico, briefing the FBI, training the agents. I trained thousands of agents and SOS support staff and intelligence analysts. If the FBI knocked on my door tonight, I'd say, screw you, talk to my attorneys. If you've lost me, if you've lost Dan Bongino, if you've lost me, if you've lost, hardcore MAGA, it is irredeemable. There's no way to salvage this entity. This entity must be dismantled because we have a political police force in America, and it's called the FBI. And it's not just about President Trump or Paul Manafort or Steve Bannon. It's about, Catholic preachers in Philly having their home raided by armed FBI agents. It's about January 6ers who didn't even enter the building and get charged with a felony. That's political police. I'm sorry.
But how did that happen, though? If at one point they were the anti-left, when did they become the anti-right?
So I just did an interview with a guy who had 21 years in, Michael Van Meter. He's an FBI guy, supervisory special agent. It's on my America First Rumble feed if you want to watch it. And he said this happened right after Louis Freed. When Louis Freed came in, you started to see lawyers being brought into the leading positions on the 7th floor in the Hoover Building, not agents. And then after 9/11, Mueller was told, remember, this is a pivotal moment in FBI history. Bush, after 9/11, told Mueller, the then FBI director, your job is to prevent the next 9/11. Hang on a second. We're cops. Cops don't prevent crime. Cops arrest and investigate crimes. Now the FBI is meant to prevent them, which means it becomes an intelligence service, not a law enforcement agency. If you don't believe me, the URL, not the URL, the address for FBI employees ends with .ic. It's fbi.gov.ic. Why? Intelligence community. They are now a spy agency. But they're spying on who? Americans. That's the problem. Mueller, Comey, starts with Freed to a certain extent. Mueller and then Comey turn it into an intelligence agency with a political prerogative. Think about the fact. We just had this drop yesterday. The FISA court issued, well, it took a year to get it, a report in which there were 270,000 FISA warrants that were illegal. Not FISA warrants, FISA surveillance requests. Over 1 million Americans? A 250,000 Americans? What are we talking about? White supremacy is the biggest threat to America? This is what the president said at a college a week ago. This is insanity. I used to give lectures on the FBI to new agents and military officers and say, you know what's really weird about America? America's the only developed nation in the world that doesn't have an internal security service. There's no MI6. There's no Bundesverfassungsschutz like there is in Germany, in America. We don't have political security because of the nature of the country and how we were born. I don't give that lecture anymore. Because we have a political police force, and it's the FBI, and it cannot be redeemed. When you've got Dan Bongino, former Secret Service guy, say it's got to be taken down. When you've got people like Steve Gray, 23 years in the FBI, say on my show, no, irredeemable. Carl Serafin, whistleblower, irredeemable. Give its 3 main missions to other agencies. It doesn't matter who you change at the top, who you put into the 7th floor of the Hoover Building. This agency is irredeemable. Look, you've served. You're a specialist, right? I know that you or I, if you're in the Philly field office and the assistant supervisory special agent says, hey, we've got this warrant. There's this guy, Mark Houck, and he pushed this abortion protester at a Planned Parenthood clinic who was screaming at his 12-year-old son. And they charged him with a misdemeanor. But the local court dismissed it. They said, you're protecting your kid. This guy's a loony. We're not going to charge you. But we're going to go in there anyway. Put on your ceramic-plated vest. Get your M4. Load it. We're going to raid his home. What would you do, Patrick? I know what I'd do. I'd say, here's my badge. Here's my creds. I'm not your stinking Gestapo. I resign.
How many are doing that?
Well, 20 of them did it for Mark Houck's house. So here's why I don't buy the Hannity thing. Oh, it's just the bad apples on the top floor. Bullshit. It's not the bad apples. If you don't have, you've got tens of thousands of agents and intelligence analysts and support staff. If you're not striking, if you're not outside the building picketing saying, we are not your Gestapo, sorry, you're one of the bad guys. We've got less than 20 whistleblowers out of tens of thousands of people at the FBI headquarters and across the nation. Less than 20 whistleblowers. And you know what's really freaky? Nobody from DOJ. The people who give the orders, not one whistleblower.
Why do you think?
Because it's that. When I was in the White House, I realized very early on, all of government is corrupt. You know, when Obama sicked the IRS on Tea Party patriots, it's all corrupt. The worst, the DOJ. The DOJ is literally a wing of the Democrat Party. It's just a political tool.
Can I ask you a question regarding the FBI? And I hear what you're saying. I mean, you make some very valid points, especially with the news of the Durham report. I want to just go back in time a little bit because Pat's saying, how did this happen? So it's purely speculation, opinion. we all remember in 2016, I think 8 days before the election, it was James Comey who went up on stage and potentially, as they say, cost Hillary the election. He basically said at the time, Hillary's emails, it was sloppy as hell. He didn't charge her with anything, but basically said it was careless to an extent. And then obviously Trump won the election. How much do you think that, and we also remember when Comey was still the FBI director, he was in that room, like basically hiding behind the drapes. He's 6'8", he's trying to blend in. Do you remember that? It was like, all right, we see you, Jim, you're 6'8", buddy. But how much do you think it's almost like a mea culpa, basically on the FBI's behalf, basically saying, yes, we are the ones essentially responsible for Trump, whether you agree with that or not, that they're basically reversing course and saying, all right, we cost Hillary the election, so let's see it's politicization of the FBI for sure, or the weaponization. But going back in time to Pat's question, how did this all happen? This is just something that comes to mind for me.
Look, that press conference is infamous. I mean, you've got to watch it again. It's 13 minutes long, and for 12 and a half minutes, Comey lists every crime she committed. Mm-hmm. 18 TSSCI, secret emails, topped and tailed, put onto a private server. That's illegal. That means somebody goes into a SCIF, goes into a secure facility with a thumb drive, which is illegal if you're a US employee, or with a camera, which is illegal, to photograph classified emails, takes them out, downloads them, and then sends them on an unsecured server to Hillary's email system, which is in her bathroom, right? If I did that once, if you did that once when you're a specialist, you're in the brig and you ain't coming out. You're going in there for 20 years, okay? Because the Espionage Act is clear. Intent is irrelevant. It's one of the few parts of the US code where intent is whether you're a spy or whether you're a moron like Aldrich Ames and you leave your briefcase of classified stuff on the subway and on the metro by accident. Doesn't matter. It's classified information. You go away. She did it 18 times in just that press conference. And the last 90 seconds he said, which he's not allowed to do. He's the director of the FBI. He's not the freaking AG. He says, but no reasonable prosecutor or judge would bring charges against this woman. I had a buddy working in the Chelsea JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force in New York. He said, there were people this is an FBI unit that is interagency. When they heard Comey say that, they got up, it was a Tuesday. They got up from their desks, put on their jackets, left the building, and didn't come back till Monday. They were so disgusted by what he did, which wasn't helping Trump. He exonerated her. And he has no right to do that. So, no reasonable person would bring charges. Excuse me? You're not even allowed to say that. You're the FBI director. You're not a prosecutor. You're not a judge. And you exonerate. Why? Because she's a friend of yours? Because you want to stay in that position? He was trying to save her. He wasn't destroying her. Now, it didn't work out too well, but his motivation was to save her ass.
Why do you think Trump kept him on as FBI director?
It's ironic for a guy whose 14-season-long TV show whose motto was, "You're fired!"
Right, exactly.
Between you and me and your viewers, he hates firing people. That's why he does it on Twitter so much. Because he really does
You're
it.
saying the guy who is most known for telling people they're fired does not enjoy firing people?
He doesn't.
Sebastian, I don't know if I'm buying that one.
You don't have to. Talk to people who worked in the White House like me and ask them. He really doesn't like doing that. I don't know why he didn't do it earlier. That guy should have been.
Well, he should have used his namesake and his catchphrase day one with Comey, don't you think?
He should have, yeah, and with many other people. Look, you have to understand one thing about President Trump, and I love as an immigrant having to remind my fellow Americans who were born here. Do you know what you did in 2016? Americans did something really funky in 2016. Because from George Washington to Obama, there's a connection. Every single president in America, every single president is a member of the political elite. Every single one. Mm-hmm. Former senators, congressmen, governors, or retired generals. Every single one. Along comes a real estate mogul from New York with a reality TV show who's never run for anything. I mean, even Reagan couldn't win first time. This guy runs the first time and he wins. 64 million Americans, as my buddy Bongino says, double-barrel middle finger to the political elite, elects somebody who's never served as county dog catcher, let alone the president. How does he know how D.C. works? He's not a politician. How does he know what Comey's really like? If Comey, brown noses him. This is why round 2 is going to be different. If we do our part and we get him reelected, dude, it's going to be very different. I said this in an interview with PBS, and they stole it, and they didn't run the interview, but they used my line as the title for the documentary with Bannon and everybody else. People need to understand, when we walked into that building, I walked into that building January 21st, the day after the inauguration. It was a Saturday, but I was on the clock. I'm a deputy. I'm going into work. When we walked into that building, there were less than 20 people in senior positions like me who were MAGA, America First, and understood why 64 million Americans said, yeah, we don't want a politician.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.